Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are looking at all the new cards for the next expansion in Hearthstone, WitchWood. As I'm doing that, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. Thank you. So, at least on the Asian account right now, you can look at the cards. If you come into your collection and go to crafting mode, that allows you to then see the standard set. You wouldn't be able to see it normally at all. And when you click on that standard set for the new expansion WitchWood, you see no results because none of the cards are craftable right now. So you have to click this box. See, it says not yet released down here, so you can't craft them with dust. We've been through every character class: Druid, Hunter, Mage, Paladin, Priest, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. So we're down to the neutral cards. And as we're trying to think, or as I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do with the potential cards I get when I open over 150 card packs when the expansion is available, I'm trying to see if there's really any synergy plan. A lot of these cards seem like they only just fill in some gaps that we're missing with already existing cards, so it may not be too much of a change of already existing decks when I try to build decks, and that wouldn't be too fun. So when I do the deck rebuild videos, after I do the card pack opening videos, I do want to try and make some crazy synergy decks, even if I don't end up playing those decks. But to accomplish that, I need to look at these neutral cards and see what will work, see what will synergize, or is this just going to be a boring expansion? A boring expansion wouldn't be too bad either, however, like, it would just give us all some more time to earn some more card packs and hopefully not spend money for card packs. First card we have is a 1 mana, 0 attack, 3 health minion called the Swamp Dragon Egg. Deathrattle, add a random dragon to your hand. I could certainly see trying to play this in a dragon deck, but it's not a dragon itself, and so, like, there's already a card like this where nobody ever attacks it because it doesn't have an attack anyways. So I seriously doubt very many people will ever play that card. Next, we have a 1 mana, 2 attack, 1 health beast minion called the Swamp Leech that has lifesteal. I could see a lot of people just playing this just because it has lifesteal. Honestly, you play this on your first turn, you probably don't even have any damage to your hero, so lifesteal wouldn't be that useful, and that might be the downfall for this card. But if you wait till your 3rd, 4th turn or later, you probably will at some point have taken at least 2 damage, so this would help you a little bit for 1 mana. It's a roundabout way to play a 1 mana spell that would heal you for 2 while also playing a beast, which might be useful particularly in the hunter class because there are other beasts that get bonuses if other beasts die. At least one card does, so I can see this definitely in a hunter class card. We're only really going to see minions in the neutral cards, by the way. I don't believe there are any weapons or spells in neutral cards. So every minion we look at is either going to have some kind of ability or just be very much ahead on the power curve with its attack or health to not have an ability, and I think most things will just have an ability. We've got plenty of cards already that don't really do anything, and those are pretty boring cards. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 health minion called the Baleful Banker. I don't know what that word is. Baleful. Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, shuffle a copy of it into your deck. There's the main mage meta deck with Sorcerer's Apprentice will play this card, making that main mage meta deck even more annoying. I was hoping they would nerf that meta deck, not add several cards so far that it improves it. It's crazy. And also this card works in many other scenarios too. So I think that'll get a lot of play. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 1 health minion called the Lost Spirit. Deathrattle, give your minions +1 attack. I assume that's the minions on your field, not minions in your hand or all throughout everywhere. If this gave +1 attack to all your minions in your hand, your deck, and on the field, that would be very, very powerful for 2 mana. As it currently stands, you're probably only going to, assuming it just means your field, you're probably only going to buff up 1 minion, maybe 2. So it's probably not worth the extra 1 mana you spend to do that. But maybe there's a use for it. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 4 health minion called Spell Shifter. Spell damage +1. Again, the mage could certainly benefit from spell damage +1. Whereas not too many spells get cast that do damage for any other character class. So it feels like mage is also getting buffed. Maybe the shaman every now and then could benefit from a spell damage +1, but not too much. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Any card I've seen like that where one turn it will be a 1 attack 4 health, the next turn it will be 4 attack 1 health. There are always bad deals in both directions. It just never seems like it works. It's too much of a gamble. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 3 health minion called the Vicious Killhide. It's a beast class minion. It has lifesteal, so when it does 1 damage attacking something, it will heal 1 damage. It also has rush, which means it can attack a minion the turn it's played. I'm not sure this is really necessary. I think you probably have better cards. This would be a good card if you don't have better cards, but I could say that about every card, frankly. A little expensive to get a 1/3 with lifesteal and rush. Moving on, we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Blackwall Pixie. Battlecry, refresh your hero power. Not a lot of cards refresh your hero power. In fact, it may be only 2 or 3. But it's not very often that you need to refresh your hero power since it refreshes after each turn anyways. We're moving pretty fast. It looks so, like, not as many neutral cards as I thought there were going to be. So let's keep moving though. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 3 health, the Hinch Clan Thug. After your hero attacks, give this minion +1/+1. So even though this is a neutral card, you're really only going to be able to use it on a warrior with weapons, on a rogue with weapons, on a druid whose hero power gives you +1 attack, or has a druid that has spells that gives you more attack. Warlock, highly unlikely to ever attack. Mage, highly unlikely to ever attack. Several other of the classes, highly unlikely. So this works for a while. Now, in one of the previous expansions, they had cards that only worked for 3 out of the 9 character classes. And I'm glad they didn't really expand that because it was very confusing. Like, it was labeled as a neutral card, but you could only play it in these 3 classes. I would much prefer they add cards that are really only useful in a few classes and just see what people do with it. Yeah, I really thought we would have a lot more cards to go through in the neutral, but now that I'm looking at it, it's just a short trip, I suppose. Page 2. Next we have a 3 mana, 5 attack, 4 health dragon minion called the Marsh Drake. Battlecry, summon a 2/1 Poisonous Drake Slayer for the opponent, which, of course, then the opponent would kill this almost always with that 2/1 Drake Slayer. This is a pointless card to play. It seems like still there's really no reason to make a dragon deck. I cannot, in my head, figure out a strategy to make a deck with a lot of dragons. There are a few that work, but that is not one of them. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health card called the Nightmare Maugham, and it's introducing a new class called All. This is an elemental mech, demon, murloc, dragon, beast, pirate, and totem. So, and I assume this means they will probably rewrite this phrase as soon as they introduce a new character class too. To say probably this is all the character classes that ever existed. Now, why would you want this? Well, it's a pretty good card that could then get any buffs and trigger any other card's abilities. For instance, there's many cards that say if you played an elemental last turn, activate this trigger. If there's another mech on the field, do this. If there's another demon on the field, give them a buff. If there's another murloc summoned, to do that. I imagine this card will have to be played a lot, just because of the wide variety of things it can do. Next, we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Phantom Militia. It has Echo and Taunt. It's not a terrible card. So Echo again is if you have 6 mana crystals, you play this and for 3 mana crystals, and then you're given the option in the same turn to play it again and summon another 2/4 with Taunt. So you could potentially have 7 of these on the field if you could find some way to reduce their cost down to low enough for it to work. The back end problem with anything that has Echo, and there is a legendary card that gives Echo to all cards, is unless you can reduce their cost below 5, like that's as high as you can go. You maximum number of mana crystals would be 10. You could play 1 5 card with Echo and then play it a second time. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 4 health minion called the Pumpkin Peasant. Lifesteal. Each turn this is in your hand. Swap its attack with its health. So sometimes it's a 2/4. Next turn it's a 4/2. Again, too much of a gamble. Don't see a real reason for it. Next we have a 3 mana, 2 attack, 1 health creature called Ravenscaller. It has a Battlecry, add 2 1-cost minions to your hand. I'm not really sure why you would want to, on your 3rd turn, play this and then have 2 1-cost minions that are just random, while also suffering from the fact that this could be, should be closer to a 3/3. Or even worse, you play this on the 5th turn and then you summon 2 other 1-cost minions and this is still a 2/1. Even if you had the card that doubled Battlecries, that still doesn't really help anything. Yeah, I don't see a strategy there for that to play that card. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health creature called the Tinkle for a Mystic. Battlecry, add a random 2-cost minion to each player's hand. Interesting. This one only adds it to your hand. This one gives it to both of them. But for the fact that you give a random 2-cost minion to your opponent, you at the very least get a 3 attack, 4 health, which is much more in line for a 3 mana character with the power curve. There might be some rare scenarios where you've already filled the opponent's hand so they can't get the random 2-cost minion. If you're trying to fill up their hands and make them run out of cards, where this might find a place in your deck, but mostly it seems anything that says random is just too random. Like, do you really need a random card, or do you want special cards that can do what you're planning them to do? Or can you have strategy is I guess the question. Next we have a 3-mana 1 attack 1 health minion, very low, Voodoo Doll. Battlecry, choose a minion. Deathrattle, destroy the chosen minion. Okay, so I see the point of why this is so low. And I guess the only way you would stop that is if you silence the guy before killing him. This might be worth playing, particularly if you have a Battlecry doubler, because then you might be able to choose 2 minions and kill it. It would take you a couple turns to get this done, because you'd have to play it, and then either in the next turn your opponent would have to kill it, or you'd have to attack with it in the turn after that. Next we have a 3-mana 3 attack 3 health minion called the Walnut Sprite. It has Echo. It's a pretty generic thing, except for the fact that it has Echo. Again, if you're not reducing the cost, you could play this on the 9th turn and have 3 of these on the field. It looks alright, but if you're picking this card because it has Echo, you're probably making a mistake. There's probably something better for 3 mana that you have in your collection. Moving on, we have a 3 mana 0 attack 4 health minion called the Witch's Cauldron. After a friendly minion dies, add a random shaman spell to your hand. Interesting that this is not a specific shaman card and is instead available to everybody. Again, though, does this work? In a weird way, this makes that main mage meta deck with the Sorcerer's Apprentices and multiple copies of the Sorcerer's Apprentices, which reduce the cost of spells down to 0. This makes that meta deck even better, because then you don't have to play the legendary card Archmage Archidonus to give you a Fire Blast after you cast a spell. Instead, you could play something like this and try to get random shaman spells on top of it and kill your enemy minions. Yep, that's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be in the mage meta deck almost certainly. Next we have a 4 mana 1 attack 6 health demon, which I believe this might be the first demon ever available in neutral cards, called the Felsoul Inquisitor. It has lifesteal and taunt. It's a pretty weak taunt creature, but it does have lifesteal. I don't see any reason why you'd want to play a demon, though, if you're not playing the warlock. So that's an interesting twist. And you can see in some of these cards, these 2 cards in particular, these were originally going to be in the warlock and the shaman collection, but they had already made their 10 cards, so they said, oh, we'll just put them in the neutral. Who cares? Next we have a 4 mana 3 attack 3 health beast minion called the Lifedrinker. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero, restore 3 health to your hero. Not terrible for being slightly above 1 mana. Normally it would be a 3/3/3. Yeah, that's a pretty good card. Next we have the 4 mana 3 health and 2 4 mana 3 attack 2 health minion that is the Mad Hatter. Battlecry, randomly lose 3 hats to other minions. Each hat gives +1/+1. Interesting. Next card we have after the Mad Hatter is a 4 mana 3 attack 3 health creature called the Night Prowler. It's a beast minion. Battlecry, if this is the only minion on the battlefield, gain +3/+3, which is interesting because most beasts synergized by having other beasts on the field. It's a little strange to have one that synergizes by not being on the battlefield. It is also, excuse me, it's also a little bit weird to have no beast on the field if you're playing a beast deck on your 4th turn. So this might be one of those tricky minions that just doesn't work. Sad to say, it may very well just not work as a beast deck. It might work pretty well, however, say you were playing a Murloc deck, because no, that wouldn't work either, because it's only if it's the only minion on the battlefield. Yeah, I don't think this minion will work for anybody too well. Moving on. Next we have a 4-mana, 2-attack, 4 health minion called the Sandbender. Battlecry, draw an elemental from your deck. If you need to play elementals, definitely play this guy. If you don't, because he's weak. And you're probably not going to draw the right elemental you want unless you only have one elemental in your deck, which might be the case in some scenarios. Next we have a 4-mana, 4-attack, 4 health creature called the Scale Worm. It is a beast minion. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and rush. So then it's a 5/4 with rush for 4 minion if you're holding a dragon. Again, I still can't figure out a way to play a very heavily loaded with dragons deck. If I could figure out a way to play a dragons deck, I would play this. And it would be very weird to play this, certainly, because it's a beast and not a dragon. But at least it kind of works and sort of almost synergizes with the dragon concept as it stands. But the dragon concept as it stands is confusing. Moving on, we have the 4-mana, 2-attack, 6 health minion, Swift Messenger. Rush. It has rush, so it can attack a minion on its first turn. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Again, any card like this, they've apparently made a whole series of these. Seems like too much of a gamble and not really worth the effort. Moving on. Next we have a 4-mana, 0-attack, 9 health minion called the Unpowered Steambot, which is a mech. It's very weird about the mech class minions, because they seem to every now and then just throw in 1 or 2 in every expansion, so you don't forget they exist. But they really came out with the Goblins vs. Gnomes expansion and have not been given any real support since then in Goblins vs. Gnomes. I believe now, if we can just kind of look. Yeah. Goblins vs. Gnomes is wild, so the vast majority of Mech Minions are wild. This is a taunt minion with 9 health for 4 mana. I could see kind of playing that, particularly if you're playing a mech only deck. There is a legendary mech character in Wild if you're playing Wild, where if you have 3 other mechs on the field at the end of the turn, it transforms into like Voltron. I've never seen it actually happen successfully, or maybe I've seen it once. So yeah, you'd have to have some pretty specific conditions to play that card. Next we have a 4-mana, 3-attack, 3 health minion called the Witchwood Piper. Battlecry, draw the lowest cost minion from your deck. Which you could probably do something pretty tricky with that one. But I don't know what. You'd have to still wait till your 4th turn to play it. This might work well to draw more Sorcerer's Apprentices for the Mage meta deck if you only have Sorcerer's Apprentices in your deck that are 2 mana and everything else is more expensive than that. come to think of it, the whole WitchWood theme for this expansion doesn't feel like it's really getting explained very well. I guess it really doesn't matter in the card expansion, but it just seems like artistically and just barely thematically WitchWood is being explained, but for the most part these are just cards, and I guess that's fine. Moving on, we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 6 health minion called the Chief Inspector. Battlecry, destroy all enemy secrets. I certainly could see playing this against mages. I could certainly see playing this against hunters. Will this be so beneficial to play on the 5th turn that people at the high level ranked, those legendary esports Hearthstone players, start playing this card? That is the question. As for most people, if you're down at rank 20, if you're down lower than rank 20, you probably don't need to play this card. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health mech again, called the Clockwork Automaton. Double the damage and healing of your hero power, which is interesting because there's another legendary card that will double the attack and healing damage and healing of your hero power and your spells. It's Prophet Valon for the priest. So I'm wondering then, if you play 2 of these and a Prophet Valon, are you doubling, then doubling, then doubling again, which should be 8 times as much damage and healing? That'd be interesting to experiment with. You might see the Hearthstone card player Trump or Disguised Toast covering something like that and trying that out. Next we have a 5 mana, 2 attack, 6 health minion, legendary minion. This is probably our first legendary for the neutral cards, the Doll Master Durain. Whenever you draw a minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. I suppose that's pretty cool. It's pretty weak for that ability, but yeah, I could certainly see playing this on the 5th turn and then having just a lot of 10 mana minions that you're getting 1 copies of. It's a pretty specialized card though. You really have to think about what that brings to your play. Next we have a 5 mana, 5 attack, 8 health minion called the Muck Hunter. It has rush and the Battlecry to summon 2 2/1 Mucklings for your opponent, which 2/1 Mucklings wouldn't kill this guy unless Mucklings have poisonous, so it's probably worth playing this. To rush, probably not the main reason why you play this, but he's got a little bit of extra health, but I guess that's what you balance this against, is you're giving your opponent something with 4 attack effectively and 2 health to have 3 extra health yourself and rush. So it's pretty balanced. I'm saying that about a lot of these cards. It's like, yeah, if you think about it and if you calculate it, some of these cards are good, but there's only been a small handful of cards I've been blown away with and it's said, oh yeah, this card will work well in everybody's deck. Which I guess maybe that's just how new expansions are going to be in Hearthstone, that the obvious, easy to play cards that everybody would want and appreciate have already been filled in, and now it's time to get weird. It's time to make cards that only make sense in a few places, not everywhere. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 5 health minion called the Rotten Apple Bomb. Taunt, Deathrattle, restore 4 health to your hero. Again, that feels like something that would be more of a priest card than a neutral card. I'd play that. It has Taunt for 1 less attack and 4 heal. So yeah, this is probably one of those cards that blows me away, and I'm like, yeah, that works. Next we have the 5 mana, 3 attack, 12 health WitchWood Grizzly Beast Minion. As Taunt and a Battlecry to lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. Which I seriously doubt you can have 12 cards in your hand, so I don't think you'd ever play this and immediately kill it, but it could be low. Let's just assume that on average when you play this on the 5th turn that your opponent has 5 cards. That would make him a 3/7 with Taunt. It's probably not as good as this 5/8 with Taunt. You could certainly time this, but you'd be only timing this against bad players that don't have at least a couple of cards in their hands. But I think it might work. Yeah. This one needs experimentation. Do the pros usually have 5 cards in their hand, or do they usually have more than 5, or do they usually have less than 5? I don't know. Moving on, we have a 6 mana, 6 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Gin Greymane. At the start of your game, this is the first start of game card that we've seen in the expansion. It's probably the only one. If your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power costs 1, which that could be a big benefit, certainly. But maybe not a big enough benefit to really want to play this card. And because this is your deck has even cost cards at the beginning, there's no way to manipulate this card in any way. So if there ever came a card that said destroy all odd cost cards in your deck, which would be the ideal continuation of something like this, this still wouldn't work. Here's where this card is going to start to get really, really crazy though. There is this card from an old expansion called Prince Malchezaar, and he gives you 5 random legendary cards. Very good for a new player. They are random at the beginning of each game, so you can't keep them or learn them or have a strategy with them. But it is 5 extra cards, which is very beneficial, and they are random legendaries, which is very beneficial. This is the kind of card, and perhaps it's the first legendary card in Hearthstone that could definitely not benefit you very much. I guess it doesn't really hurt you. But if Prince Malchezaar gives you this card, and you don't have only even cards, then you just have a 6 mana, 6 attack, 5 health, which is still fine, I suppose. But you're not taking advantage of this. And I heavily suspect more people will see Gin Greymane through Prince Malchezaar than they will through any other reason. Because I just don't think it's worth it. And I imagine we might see a card very similar to this that is only odd cost cards. Next card we have is a 6 mana, 2 attack, 7 health minion called the Mossy Horror. Battlecry, destroy all other minions with 2 or less attack. I assume that's on the field, not just throughout both players' deck. 1 second, I'm gonna cough. Without fail, every time there is an expansion I end up talking way too much about the cards, and it causes me to wear out my voice and cough quite a bit. Is there anything to say about this? It's low attack, it's a decent amount of health, but way too low attack. To destroy all minions with 2 or less attack, you're very rarely going to have that scenario come up on your 6th turn. Even if you're playing against a Murloc deck, either your Murloc deck would have won by the 6th turn, or your opponent's Murloc deck would have won by the 6th turn, or they've just lost by other means, so I don't see a reason to play that. Next, we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 3 health legendary minion called Azalina Soul Thief. Azalina Soul Thief. Battlecry. Replace your hand with a copy of your opponent's. Well, that will certainly screw up some people at the high level of esports play, but it's probably just a random crazy gamble for any regular player. I think you could do a lot better for 7 mana if you're not playing at ranked 1 play or legendary level play. Next, we have a 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion, legendary minion, Countess Ashmore. Battlecry, draw a Rush, Lifesteal, and Deathrattle card from your deck. I don't really like. This is an alright card by itself, I guess. It's just a little low on attack and health. But the real way to use this would be to have one very specific rush card that you would want to play, say, on your 8th turn, and a very specific lifesteal card, and a very specific Deathrattle card. And I'm not sure exactly why it is Rush, Lifesteal, and Deathrattle. Yeah. Again, a card you'd have to really think about and build a deck very specifically around one card, which probably isn't the right way to make decks, particularly for Hearthstone. It's probably a lot better to have a generalized synergy with 2 or 3 strategies towards victory. That way, if one of those strategies or even 2 of the strategies get subverted by your opponent's play, you still have a 3rd way to win, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. Next we have is a 7 mana, 2 attack, 8 health minion called the Darkmire Moonkin. Spell damage +2. This looks like just an awful card. Really awful. Way too low health. I imagine it's trying to be some kind of middle card between the one minion that has spell damage +5 and all the other minions that have spell damage +1. But I don't think they got the balance there. Also, I don't think too many people will play this card, so I doubt it will get changed. Activision Blizzard isn't really big about fixing cards that aren't played. It's just about nerfing cards that are played. There's tons of boring, never played cards in Hearthstone, and they're perfectly fine with it. They've said so directly. And I imagine that is going to be an example of a boring, never played card. Next, we have a 7 mana, 5 attack, 9 health minion called Furious Eaton. It has taunt. I guess it's fine. It's kind of a boring card too. It's just a variant of what would be a 7 mana, 7 attack, 7 health taunt minion. Which I guess there was a hole there. In there, if we spreadsheeted all the taunt minions, there probably wasn't a 5/9 taunt minion for 7 until this point. Next we have a 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion called the Worgen Abomination. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other damaged minions. The only deck I could see playing something like this in would be a Warrior Enraged deck. So you could play something that would do 1 damage to all minions so that they are damaged minions. Then you play this on the 7th turn and it does 2 more damage to all the damaged minions. But you would also be doing damage to your own damaged minions. Seems like it's a crazy gamble and a so specialized card that you would just never actually want to play it. That's the best I can figure. Next we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 11 health, quite high health, minion called Wormguard. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and taunt. Again, if you can figure out a reason to make a dragon deck, this would be a card to play in a dragon deck, which is still odd because it's not a dragon. And we're on the last page. Next we have an 8 mana, 7 attack, 7 health elemental minion, the Cauldron Elemental. Your other elementals have +2 attack. And boom goes the dynamite. This is the card that you need in any elemental deck. Now there's a reason to make an elemental deck. An actual synergy with 1 card at least. You put this in a mage elemental where you have the hero replacement card that lets you summon more elementals. It makes sense. Yeah. So big game changer there. It starts to make we'll start to see people playing elemental a little bit more, I'd bet. If only these last 4 cards, before we look at them, made some big game changers. I might be a little bit more positive on WitchWood, but right now it seems like it's just gap filling. Pretty boring cards with no real synergy or new ideas. Rush is kind of the only new idea. Next we have 8 mana, 8 attack, 8 health minion called the Deranged Doctor. Deathrattle, restore 8 health to your hero. It's perfectly fine, and because it's a common, I bet a lot of new players could play this instead of bemoaning the fact that they don't have an 8 mana legendary to play instead. If you do have an 8 mana legendary, play it above this, almost certainly, but this would be fine in any deck, pretty good in a priest deck particularly. Next we have an 8 mana, 3 attack, 8 health. That's really low attack. Minion called Gillian Royal Guard. Yeah, I suppose that's Gillian or Gillian. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It has Divine Shield, which is interesting because Divine Shield has been mostly for Paladin. This may be the first card that's not a Paladin card that has Divine Shield. And Rush. Each turn this is in your hand, it swaps its attack and health. I guess the idea here is that Paladin cards and Paladin decks might play these cards that swap their attack and health. Or Priest cards might play these too, because where the Priest has a lot of cards to increase health, the Paladin has a decent number of cards to increase attack. So there might be some gap fillers if you're willing to play these cards and be constrained by the crazy rules of it changing its attack and health each turn. Otherwise, don't see any reason why you'd play this. It's pretty ridiculous. Even with the Divine Shield, it's still pretty ridiculous. Like 8, let's say it wasn't an 8 attack with 3 health. It has Rush. It kills something with 8 health. Fine, it's lost its Divine Shield. It's almost certainly going to die before you get a second attack. Next we have an 8 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called the Splitting Fester Root. Deathrattle, summon 2/2 Splitting Saplings. And so unless the Splitting Saplings then have a Deathrattle to become 2 1/1 saplings, which maybe they do, maybe they don't. I bet they don't. this doesn't seem like it's worth it. And even if it does do that, it's still not really worth it in my mind. Yeah, this is another pass. Just seems a little too crazy. I don't see a reason why you'd want to do this with the Druid. I don't see why you'd really want to have such an expensive card with anybody. And then finally we have a 9 mana, 7 attack, 8 health minion, beast style minion, legendary beast minion called Baku the Moon Eater. Start of the game, if your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. And upgrading your hero power, again, very useful. Maybe, just maybe, it's worth having this card in your deck and playing around only playing odd cards. It's a little surprising that we didn't have a neutral 10 mana card. Did we have any 10 mana cards added? There's a 9 mana card in this expansion. There's an 8. That's going the wrong direction. 7, 8, 6. So here's one. Here's one 10 mana card in the entire expansion. And that's the only one. Alright, well, unless I'm missing something that's pretty obvious, there doesn't seem like there's any new synergies. So I'm really left to my own devices as far as trying to build new decks. I think a lot of my new decks, after I open the card packs when the expansion is out, I think a lot of them are going to be through the Hearthstone Deck Tracker app and hsreplay.net, which will tell me the best decks to build based on their knowledge, which their knowledge won't be complete because this will be a new expansion. But I think that's mostly what I'm going to do instead of trying to build some random things. Although I probably will make at least one of every character class deck, and just for fun. But I don't know how many of those I'm really going to keep. The one thing with all the odd things, how can I search odd? Because this certainly isn't the way to search for odd cards. So do we have to type in something like is odd as a new key phrase? So yeah, how do you even build a deck with only odd cards? Do you literally have to come in here and say, give me all the 1 mana cards and pick from those, and then give me all the 3 mana cards and pick through those? I suppose that's what you have to do. And one little change to be able to have odd cards and only odd cards ruins the point of playing that. And of course, this is with my Asian account, so we certainly have. I mean, you start to run into a problem though, because you can't even see 9s. You have to click on 7s and then scroll past 8s to the 9s. And if there happens to be any 11s, which I guess right now there aren't any 11, except for there is like one 11 character legendary that is specific to one of these classes. Here it is. So yeah, you'd have to browse to the 9s, browse to the 11s. I don't think there are any 13s. And that is going to be incredibly difficult. We need some way to search by odd. And is there anything else to say? 24 pages of new cards for the new expansions. Once the cards are available, let's see if they are available right now. Like, right now, looking at all of the wild cards on my agent account, I'm only really taking up 26 pages. Well, for 26 pages for all the ones that were 7 above. Taking up 175 pages otherwise. Let's see. We can't open these yet. I'll double check and reset the account just to double check that, but I'm pretty sure maybe tomorrow though. Since Hearthstone is so bad about announcing dates on so many different things, maybe tomorrow I'll be opening the 150 card packs. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, please click that notification bell. If you want to support me even further than that, friend me on Steam and gift me a Steam game or gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.